Thanks to smartphones, it's easier than ever to be creative these days. Or is it? We're going to be talking about all that and more, but first, coffee. Now, the coffee today was actually gifted to me by a viewer and friend who shows up to Evo Japan. It's from a shop called, apparently, Angkan. I think it's from the Philippines. And as you can see, it is a Sultan Kudarat Arabica. Not 100% sure what to expect, but I have done one shot just to help me dial in a little faster today. I've got a list of ideas before I make these videos, and I let them stew in my mind before I actually jump in and make a coffee video. But a lot of content creation these days is very different. Most people are walking around with their smartphones, shooting everything and anything. In fact, there are plenty of YouTube channels which are literally just security cameras waiting for funny things to happen. And then when something funny happens, usually someone getting injured. When someone gets injured or something embarrassing happens, that goes up on the internet and people just farm the views. Now, I'm not saying that that's bad content, and in fact, I've seen videos like that and I've laughed at them. I thought they were really funny. But my question today is, how is that affecting your actual daily life? And how does that affect you as a creator? And more specifically, as a creative person. Now, actually, before we jump straight into the topic, I want to show you that I'm going to be making coffee with a slightly different device today, the Wakako Pico Presso. It's actually a full-on espresso machine. Like you've seen giant, big espresso machines in this palm-sized cylinder. Almost every tool you need to make an espresso is here. This is not a sponsored video, by the way. I'm just really excited because I can't believe that it does the whole espresso process in just this tiny package. Now, the reason I'm talking about this topic today is that I've just been to Evo Japan. And one of the main things that I did differently at Evo Japan this year is that I decided not to take a huge number of videos. Usually, if you go to a big event, let's say you go to a video game event or an anime event or something in Tokyo, you would not quite naturally want to make a video like such and such in Japan or such and such in Tokyo. And there was a time when that sort of thing was really big. But even back then, they were like thought out videos. I'm going to go to this event, I'm going to showcase it. What's really changed, especially in the past year, especially for YouTube, is the new platform that they call Shorts. Now, short form content definitely has its advantages. There are a lot of great things that I've seen that are shorts, which I'm glad were only 30 seconds long and not like a 20-minute video. The thing with short form content is that it really changes our attitude to how we actually capture the footage for those videos. Now, some people have actually gone full in with shorts and they've found ways to make shorts which are, you know, fully filmed at home and well thought out, and they've got a whole theme and everything. But an overwhelming majority of shorts tends to be, I happened to see something kind of outrageous that happened that day and I've got my phone, so I recorded it. And what happens is when you actually make a video like that, the system kind of rewards you for it. And what does a system do when it rewards you? Well, it encourages you to do it again and again and again. And every time you write hashtag shorts in the description of a video, it tells you how many other times that hashtag has been used. It says this hashtag's been used like 8.9 billion times or 8.9 million times. I don't remember exactly. I think it's 800 million shorts. I don't know how many shorts they've got, but it's a lot, and these beans aren't going into the grinder. But my question is, how many of them are really valuable? And even if they are valuable, what did you have to go through to get those shorts? Let's grind! What happens with shorts content is that in order to actually get the shorts content, you need to be ready at every moment of your life. And by the way, I've just realized I started grinding this at 5.1, but actually I want the drawdown to be a little bit slower than before, so I'm going for 4.9, 4.8. Okay, we're gonna try 4.8. I tried 5.1 before, and it was a little more on the acidic side, but then again, it might just be that it's supposed to be an acidic coffee. Although some people have really found a way to make professional shorts that are well thought out and turned into a series, the overwhelming majority of everyone else is getting that dopamine hit. They shot something completely randomly where someone got injured or someone fell off a boat or someone did something incorrectly. And they posted it on YouTube and they got that hit. 50 views, followed by 10,000 views, followed by 1 million views, followed by, wow, they've got 32 million views on YouTube. And let's not forget that YouTube is in full control of this. It's not that the content is always so much more interesting. It's that YouTube really wants to be showing that they're successful with their shorts content. So it's just like, our best shorts have 800 million views. It's like, well, you could just control it. You can just feed those shorts to people. And it's already counted as a view. Even if someone didn't really want to watch it, they don't have to watch to the end of the video to count as a view on that video. So as long as they just feed it to people, numbers go up. I know it sounds like I'm sore about shorts, but I'm not. I genuinely believe that actually the shorts platform is a great way to showcase certain kinds of content, things that need to be really fast. To be honest, when I was getting into all this espresso stuff, a lot of the tools that I had seen, I had really fallen in love with because of really short 30-second videos of people pulling really beautiful shots. And I was like, well, I wonder what it tastes like. And now I've tried it. To get the overwhelming majority of shorts, people have to be always ready to capture everything. And how does that affect your life, do you think? If you're always walking around with a camera, you always have to be ready to film something. And in fact, even if you're not ready to film something, you might just turn the camera on and record everything just in case something happens. Are you really present in the moment? Now, I'm not going to talk about mindfulness, like you should be mindful and you should be present in the moment. If you don't want to be present in the moment, that's totally fine. But for me, there is one extra aspect of this which makes it a little bit more complicated. If I'm focused on always trying to make content, I feel like I'm one step closer all the time to what is becoming a big problem in 2024, which is burnout. I've taken numerous hiatuses on my channel. There are sometimes like a month or 2 months where I just won't post anything. Maybe I'm just busy. Maybe I just don't want to make videos. For whatever reason, I go in and out of burnout. But I don't think I've ever reached like complete burnout where I've like said, I'm going to shut down my channel because I just can't do this anymore. The thing is, with a large majority of creators that are like really, really successful, it's because they've gone with the flow. They've found what works on YouTube and they've continued to do it. And many of those creators have gone with the flow and also managed to maintain being creative. But it's not just maintaining being creative, they're also very strategic. And for me, the issue is that if I'm constantly like worrying about what the algorithm wants, I end up just falling into this trap of becoming less creative, which is kind of the most shocking aspect of this that I found. What should have been a system which was making me more creative, shoot the video vertical, and you know, I don't even have to edit it because the video is so short, I could probably just post it as it is. It should be easier to be a creator, and it is. But the question is it easier to be creative? What I find is that if I'm constantly on the search for content, then I'm not really focused on being creative. And also, being creative is not really, I don't want to say rewarded, but it's obvious that YouTube is not encouraging creative content. It's encouraging engaging content. Those are not the same thing. Sometimes they can be engaging and creative at the same time, but they don't always have to be. What this all comes down to is that when I was at EVO Japan, when I've been to events like Tokyo Game Show, I would start to get kind of stressed and anxious, even just thinking about the event, knowing that if I'm going to go to the event, I'm going to have to bring my camera. Maybe I should bring my 360 camera. Will I have good audio? Am I going to arrive on time to see all the right events? Like, it very quickly turns from something you wanted to do to just a job, just turning into work. And it's okay. I don't think you should resent work. I think actually your approach to the work that you do in your life can actually hugely affect whether you reach, some level of happiness. The issue is that I was getting anxious about making content and capturing content and getting all that stuff that would feed the system, because YouTube is this like machine. And I've made a video called, I think I titled it, I'm not a content creator. But it did frustrate me at the time that the word was becoming quite a buzz thing. It was like 2020, it's just like content creator. And a lot of people hadn't really used that term until that point. It was usually just, I'm a creator, or I'm just a YouTuber. It wasn't like specifically content creator. But when it became that word, it became very clear that the focus was on feeding the machine. Feeding the YouTube machine, feeding this beast that if you don't give it the right feed, it will just kind of spit you back out and say, we don't need you anymore. It's not healthy. It's just, I found, it's not that I have like, I'm not going to tell anyone else that they shouldn't, like they should avoid making content. Like when people are on the grind, I have a lot of respect for people who can be on the grind. I just don't think it's working for me, and I didn't really like what it was doing to me, like health-wise. So I was at EVO Japan, and ultimately I made a fairly important decision for myself before the event began. I said, I'm not going to film everything. I'm not even really going to think too hard about like whether something needs to be captured or not. I mean as video. I'm not worried too much about whether I should be pointing my camera and recording things. But I'm not going to completely walk away from the idea of capture. I wanted to find a balance where I'm not becoming a machine, but I am still capturing. And what I came to as a balance was, instead of capturing video, I decided that at EVO Japan 2024 this year, instead of capturing video, I would capture ideas. This is going to sound like I'm telling everyone this is the more important thing to do. It's absolutely not. A lot of people make great videos just capturing actual stuff that happened. But I'm not interested in capturing stuff that happened. I'm interested in filtering what I saw into ideas. And that means when I capture something, it's more that I'm being affected by my surroundings. And it's making me have some kind of, well, I don't want to say it's like completely unique, but an idea that I can call my own, or an idea that I came up with by myself. And in the age of AI, I think that's really important because it will be very difficult to compete with the quality of AI in the future. At the moment, it's easy to compete with the quality of AI because although it looks good on the surface, because it's still a little half-cocked, it's like not like you can find the issues and it's just like, now it looks like AI. AI still has a look. People are usually still looking for quality. When they go on the internet, they're looking for engaging images, like, you know, their favorite anime characters. Often the person who does it with the most incredibly realistic style, but also a bit of a personal flair. It's like they get zillions and zillions of views because it's impressive. But I don't think that it's always going to be like that. I think in the future, it's going to become more and more important that the content that you're making isn't just high quality, that it's yours. I don't know if the word is post-truth, but we have no idea what's real anymore. And the only real satisfaction we can get from things is starting to know that it's real. Now, one analogy that comes to mind for me is The Matrix. Spoiler warning, if you haven't seen The Matrix, you should probably leave the video now. A man discovers that the world around him is actually virtual. His whole life, it's been virtual. It's a little bit like The Truman Show. Maybe that's why I like both of those movies. He discovers that his life was virtual, and the question is, can he plug back into the virtual world and still enjoy it? The point I'm trying to make about The Matrix is that it becomes more important that something is real and less important about whether it's impressive, high quality, engaging, getting millions of views. At the moment, because of the way that our social media systems are built, we do prioritize things like that. But I think in the future, it's going to wildly swing back. It's not going to matter to people whether something is the highest possible quality because we can get that easily. Once high quality is the thing that everyone has, soon what we'll really want is something that is ours, something that we can call our own, something that we can say that we found ourselves. Here's a creator that I've discovered. I'm one of the only 50 fans of this particular creator, and I love their work. There was actually a time like that. It was called the early days of the internet. It actually was like that, and I genuinely think that it's going to swing back. I think it actually has to swing back, because if it doesn't, we're just going to be stuck in this world of noise. Very high quality, incredibly well produced artworks by AI, but also in the future probably scripts that are artfully created by AI. But that's a big argument for another time. I've just realized I need to boil the water so I can actually preheat this Pico Presso. The Pico Presso, is very different from making coffees with other coffee makers and espresso makers. You have to pump it in like this. So it's not a constant amount of pressure. You give it a good whack of pressure, then it kind of lays off. Then you give it another whack of pressure, and then it lays off. Then you have to keep doing it. So you have to like find a way to constantly put pressure in. And hopefully it just doesn't like have too much of this wave. Though at the same time, I'm not sure if that really negatively would affect the shot itself. I assume it would, or maybe it'll make it more difficult to make consistent shots. Absorb some of that heat and reach a nice temperature. Put the scale here, put my shot mirror here. All right, we got 45 grams in about 52 seconds. Oh man, I'm so excited about this. All right, time to taste some of this Sultan Kudart Arabica from Ankan. Thank you very much, Riel, for sending this to me or handing it over to me in person. Oh, I was expecting it to be less sharp than before now that I've made the grind a little bit finer, but it feels like it's become sharper. Sharper at the start, but then smoother afterwards. Now it's got a little more of that balance with the bitterness. I don't know if the word is adult flavor. It's got like an adult flavor. You know when you're like sitting in a bar and it is a little bit smoky. Now, actually these days I wouldn't like to be in a smoky bar because I'd be like, I don't really want all those toxins going into my lungs. But I do recognize the smells from those days. And it does have that smoky kind of flavor to it. Smoky and syrupy, but also a little citrusy and quite bitter. It's interesting how well balanced this coffee is. What I'm trying to say when it comes to content creation is that ultimately, I think that in the process of trying to make creativity easier, now that everyone has access to it, and they're being encouraged to do it as much as physically possible and to vlog every moment of their lives and also vlog every moment of other people's lives, I feel like we've reached an issue where it's not actually becoming creativity anymore, it's just becoming content. So the word creator is very complicated because it sounds like creative, right? It starts like creative, but it ends with, it just ends with content, basically. And content isn't the same as creativity. Content is something that you produce because it needs to be consumed. It needs to be consumed by the machine. It needs to be consumed by people who view videos on the platform. It needs to obtain as much of viewers' watch time as possible. And that's not just like thousands and millions of viewers and collecting their watch time. We're talking about actual hours of individual people's days. Like if you create content in a certain way, which constantly requires people to log back in, fall back on all the other tasks that they had in their lives, or the other dreams and aspirations and creative things that they wanted to do, they forget about them because here's another day that I spent 2.5 hours on X, formerly known as Twitter, or another couple hours that I spent on a social platform like Facebook. Just what are my friends up to? What are they? Oh, look, so and so's had kids. That's cool. Oh, so and so got married. It's just like it just doesn't end, the consumption of content. But consumption is an important intrinsic part of creativity. I don't want to just create stuff and no one sees it. Like, it's important to me that I have both. I want to create stuff and I want people to see it. But at the moment, there's very little of the creation happening in a lot of content. And even in my own content, like the past year, like trying to figure out how to set the channel up for the future, I experimented with a lot more review type content, which I always do, but I had a lot less of this coffee making content, where I was actually able to be creative, explore, experiment, and just enjoy the whole process of making coffee and the process of creating videos and getting feedback from you and developing like a connection with you. I feel like last year, the experiment took me into a place where I was like, okay, well, this would be really productive if I just made videos like this, but I didn't feel like I owned any of them. It's not that I didn't own any of them, but I felt like this has reached a level of quality where someone else probably could have done it. Whereas before, I had a lot of videos that maybe weren't as high in production quality, but they were more mine. They felt more mine. That's why a lot of bands, a lot of people fall out of love with bands that they first discovered earlier, because they become more professional and they really fulfill their potential in a certain genre. But there's a lot lost from that original LP, from that original EP, from that original first album, where it's just like, it was raw and maybe it was less polished, but it was more them. It was more the bands that I fell in love with. And as a creator, that's kind of what I want to get back to. I want to fall back in love with the content that I make. It's not that I don't love the content that I make, but I do feel slightly more detached from it than I did maybe before last year, before I had more production, high quality. Like, I was really focused on how do I make like the definitive review for this video that is going to just be so useful. Like, people can just watch this video and understand everything they need to know about this product. Don't get me wrong. I think that kind of content is important, but more worrying is the global trend of content creation. It's not really about content creativity. It's not about creator creativity. It's about content. It's about feeding the machine and making sure that it is happy, and if it's not happy, that we like change ourselves to make the machine happy. And what is it all for? Ultimately, a big corporation that makes a lot of money. Now, don't get me wrong, they also make a lot of great content, which makes us happy. But don't forget, a lot of the stuff that makes you happy in your life isn't always great for you. It's not until you like quit sugar for months on end that you realize you don't really need sugar. But when you're still addicted to sugar, you're like, well, why would I give this up? It doesn't feel like it's killing me. I know lots of people who eat sugar just fine and they live long, happy lives. They seem to be just fine. It's like, until you experiment with not having sugar in your life, and again, I'm not saying that you have to remove sugar from your life. It's just one of those things that you can try. You discover a whole world, a whole different way to see your world. It's not all about, I've discovered the things I love and I must have all of them. It's like, well, I've discovered things I love, and by experiencing not having them, I'm also experiencing a new form of joy, a new form of like diligence, like ability and discipline to live my life without these things. Not saying that you should. Like, it's just another way to enjoy your life. See the things you want and not have them. Sounds kind of crazy, but there is a certain amount of satisfaction that comes from being able to reject things just because you want to, like exercising freedom and free will over your life in a world where we ultimately don't know if we actually have free will at all, and maybe we never will. So on the surface of it, it really just sounds like, okay, I'm going to stop shooting videos all the time. I'm not going to pressure myself to get my camera phone out and record everything that's happening and make sure that the videos are, you know, fed to my YouTube channel. Like, that's really just one aspect of it. But really, it's also being present in the moment. It's mindfulness. It's avoiding the anxiety of like, am I going to be able to cover this event properly? Like, to the point that, you know, even as I explained in a previous video, like, the anxiety was actually threatening me not going to the event. It's like, well, if I can't do it properly, maybe I just won't go. Like, it can actually kind of ruin the event for me. But on the wider scale, I do think there is a bigger issue where content creation and feeding the machine and being manipulated by the machine, and manipulation's not always bad, but it's like, if you're not aware of it, then how can your life end up in ruin? That's the real issue for me. For what I really think is at the core of this is exercising some element of free will in a world where we're just constantly being tugged this way and that way. Subscribe to me, make content for me, do this job for me, and eventually you can end up not just halfway through your life, but at the end of your life thinking, how much did I actually do that I decided to do myself? How much of it was that I made one video which got 1,000 views, then it got 1 million views. I'm actually talking about a specific video, PS Vita TV. I made like a video about the PS Vita TV and it snowballed. Like 1,000 views. I was like, yeah, my videos usually get 300 views, but I got 1,000. And then like by the end of the week, I had 10,000 views. And then, you know, by the end of the month, like it was getting like hundreds of thousands of views. And then, you know, that video now has like, I don't know, over 1 million views or whatever. But if I hadn't had that dopamine hit, maybe I wouldn't have continued going into content creation. Thing is, would that have been a bad thing? I actually don't know. What I do know is that in place of my creativity and the things that I was working on, I now have a YouTube channel, which I am super grateful for. Like, I love making YouTube videos, but it's complicated because I'm also aware that in place of a lot of things that I wanted to do, like writing music, drawing comics, doing animations, like, I don't know, joining a studio and being part of a large project, there are a lot of those things that I just didn't do because I discovered YouTube, and it just keeps rewarding me. Every time I make a video, I can get a number of views. You know, you can monetize your channel if you want to. There's so many ways that the system can encourage you, and I mean in brackets, manipulate you into doing more of what it wants you to do for them. And in a way, while you're doing it, it's fun. So it's like, well, I enjoy making videos, so I don't mind feeding the machine. But it's not until you take a step back, and maybe you could take that step back when it's too late. You're like, well, now I don't have any years left to do those things that I had set out to do. And it's why? Because someone rewarded me for doing what they wanted me to do. So the question I want to ask you here today is, how in control of your activities are you? For example, with content creation, are you really in control of what you make and how often you make and when you're thinking about it? Because for me, I'm seeing an increasingly large amount of people who feel pressure to constantly feed the machine, to constantly record everything, to constantly consume everything, to constantly know about every trend that's happening, to always understand what's the most engaging thing out there. When actually, one of the most satisfying aspects of my channel has been when I completely ignore trends, when I ignore engagement, when I don't think about monetization or view counts or anything. I just think, what's something that I would love to connect with people about? And then I turn it into a coffee video. So it's like on top of making just whatever I feel like making, I also get a tasty drink out of it. It's insane. And I just absolutely love it because it tastes so good. So I encourage you to make a drink of your own. It doesn't have to be caffeinated. It could be a cup of decaf tea. It could be a decaf coffee. It could be a glass of milk. Whatever it is you're doing, I hope you're enjoying making it and thinking about these concepts with me today. Because ultimately, it's not about content creation. It's about content creativity. So go out there and create something. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. If you liked it, click the like button. And if you want to see more, I'm sure you're going to enjoy this topic next. That's all for today. I hope I'll see you real soon. Cheers, real. Thanks for this coffee.